I'm Sierra Jiminez. I'm an associate producer at Fortune, and I graduated from Newhouse in 2011.
So what does it mean to be an associate producer? We're obviously in a very fun little studio here. I'll show folks. We're in a studio that they use, or you use actually, to do some interviews for Fortune.com. Tell me about it.
So basically, an associate producer for Fortune Digital. So I do a few things. I do video for Fortune. I both shoot and edit, and then I do some coordinating producing on the side. I work with CNN Money, which we have a joint venture with. And then I also work on our app a little bit. I do production for that sometimes. And that's pretty much it.
So you were a newspaper journalism major, which I think folks think of, all right, well, she's going to go and work for a paper and write print and make newspapers. And fast forward a little bit later, you're not doing that. Do you feel like you had to learn a lot on the job, or how did you come into this?
Well, first of all, I was a newspaper major, but I also did broadcast journalism. I took some broadcast classes. All through my internships, I did multimedia, so I wasn't just writing in Newhouse, and that's sort of how I got my foot in the door here. Actually, when I applied for this job, I initially applied for a reporter position, and when I went to go interview for the reporter position, I ended up meeting the .com editor, and we talked about my video experience, and she absolutely loved it, so she created a new position for me.
Wow, that's awesome.
That was this position. And so it was basically, her idea was, you know, we already had this joint venture with CNN Money. We were doing little videos there, but the communication wasn't great, and nobody on the Fortune side knew video. And they needed someone to be a sort of liaison and also produce videos when CNN Money couldn't. And that was what I ended up doing.
Love it. So what's your advice to students who want to make a career out of doing video, out of, you know, what you do every day? How do you do it so well?
Well, it's a lot of work. And, you know, I had a lot of sleepless nights in Newhouse, and I still feel like I have a lot of sleepless nights here. But I think the main thing is, I think the best advice I ever got was actually from a professor at Newhouse, Hub Brown, he was never one of my professors, but he was always a great advisor. And he told me when I graduated, I was freaking out because I didn't know where I was going to go, and I didn't know if I wanted to go into broadcast or if I wanted to go into newspapers or what I wanted to do. And the best thing he ever told me, he goes, I don't know if your job's been created for you yet. I think you actually have to create it. And that's what I did. And so I think the biggest thing is, don't be afraid to say what you want to do, and don't be afraid to say, this is what I need in order to do that job. Are you going to help me? And this is how it's going to be beneficial to you. Because at the end of the day, you want to be happy in your job, and you want to be doing what you absolutely love and what you're good at. And if that means that you have to make that happen, then make it happen.
How do you stay up to date in the digital space, if you will?
Oh,
you know,
man.
Is it reading blogs? Is it, you know, following along with the latest news on Twitter? Because I feel like you look, you know, today Facebook is going to do hashtags. How do you stay up to date with that?
Well, I'm on Twitter all day long, basically. It's always kind of like in the little corner of my screen. But a lot of it is I start consuming media from the minute I wake up until the minute I go to bed. So, you know, the minute I wake up, I'm either have the TV on for some sort of newscast, or I'm listening to NPR, and I'm listening to a lot of different media that's going on. So I'm listening to the news, I'm listening to the daily events, whatever. And then when I get into the office, it's Twitter, it's Facebook, it's always there. And it's always sort of in the background of whatever I'm doing. So maybe I'll like really focus on video for most of the day, and if it's a really crazy day, I don't really have time to see what's going on. Perfect example is when the Sandy Hook shootings happened. I didn't even know until the end of the day because I was so enveloped in what I was doing. That's how off the radar I was. But for the most part, my days, I can kind of let it come in, and it's always there. So it's basically being on Twitter all the time.
That will keep you up to date.
Yeah.
That's great. So what, you know, when it comes to networking, and obviously, especially in the media business, I think you're meeting people all the time. What's your or your tip for staying memorable? Like when you meet someone, how do they, you know, have an effect on you when you meet them and you're like, wow, I'm going to remember that person. I want to work with her again. Yeah. You know, what's your, you know, the best kind of networking advice you might give?
I really hate the term networking, actually.
Okay.
I hate networking. I think that the best term is relationship building, and I think that, you know, meeting someone and then sending a nice little email and saying, hey, it was great to meet you, and then never talking to them again, or maybe emailing them only like 6 months down the line when you see a job is open in their company. Like, that's not really networking. My biggest thing is when I meet someone and I say that I'm going to follow up, I follow up. And then I say, can we meet for coffee? Can we actually talk? I don't like the email thing. I think the email is a good step in, and it's a good way to initiate an actual face-to-face conversation. But networking is always best when you're actually building a relationship, not just, sending a random email in hopes to get something out of it.
Building your network when you don't need it, so that when you do need it, it's there for you, right? Any class you took or any experience you had at school that you really think molded who you are today, or anything you think, students do not miss this, do not graduate without doing this class, or, this program? What's your final words of advice on that?
I can't really name one single class, but the biggest thing I can say is, like I said, I was a newspaper major, and even when I was at Newhouse, the majority of my years there wasn't a lot of integration in the multimedia world. I hear there's more now.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing was I would urge everybody to actually take classes outside of their major. I took broadcast classes, I took photo classes, I took a TRF class. I took a lot of different classes because I wanted to go into multimedia, but I wanted to know everything possible. Even if it meant that I knew it and I hated it and I knew I didn't want to do it, I still knew it. And so the biggest thing that I would give advice to Newhouse students is to just keep taking as many classes as possible. If you think you even have a minute interest in it, do it. You might end up learning that, like, you're really good at something that you didn't think that you were good at. Like, I thought I was actually horrible at video. Turns out I'm good at it. But, you'll see what you end up liking, and it's only going to be in your favor.
Worked out well for you. Sierra Jiminez, class of 2011. Thanks so much, Sierra.
Thank you.